So nice to see you, everybody. I'm Antoine. I'm in charge of business development at Zama, and my background is really working with tech companies and getting a product on market. So I brought with me Amine, who is working from with OpenZeppelin, and we thought we would dig into the topic of how to turn a great technology into a great product and sales machine, especially focusing on institutional markets, because you've seen it, the crypto market shifted from retail-oriented experience to more B2B kind of play. So a lot of profitability is coming from there. Quick question to the assembly to start. Who thinks that the best products sell themselves, by themselves? No one? So you still think you need to hire salespeople? Good. Great. All right. So, I mean, maybe let's start with a quick introduction from you. Tell us who
Sure.
you are.
Cool. Hi, everyone. So I'm Amin. I'm leading our financial institution sales team in OpenZeppelin. And yeah, my day to day is really like securing digital asset products with institution, mainly in the US, but now also in the APAC region and Europe. I've been at the company for the last 2 years, building the strategy from scratch and the execution. And now we're really expanding as the market is evolving. We have like a large team compared to like 2 years ago.
Many
Yeah.
people?
Currently, we're like five. So yeah, for OpenZeppelin, it's a lot because it's a fully bootstrapped company. We're not VC funded. So from 1 to 5 in 2 years is pretty, pretty brutal for sales. Yeah.
I see. And so tell me, like, how do you get from this stage of 1 to 5? Like, what was the inception of OpenZeppelin? Why was it created? And how did you get to 5 institutional salespeople?
Cool. Yeah. So basically, OpenZeppelin has been created in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So it's actually a great moment for us to be all around here. And it's this year is the 10 years of the company. But it started really in 2016 with the smart contract library that most of the DeFi protocols are using today. It has been like more than 32 trillions of value transferred from our libraries since inception, and we've been maintaining this library open source for free for years. But at some point, we needed also to make revenue to be sustainable, and our way was to kind of secure anyone who would build on top of our library. You would have some diff to audit, and we would
Yep.
start auditing the difference. And that's how our company started as the first smart contract
Yeah.
audit
Auditor.
company
Yeah.
in the space. Then it slowly grow more with the DeFi, with the adoption of like large DeFi protocol. We secured like large one like Uniswap and like other like Morpho, like more purely DeFi, and Aave as well. And then recently, since the last 2 3 years, we've seen a few interactions with institutions, and that's the moment we decided that maybe we should invest a bit more in that. And it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So I joined the team. I was alone trying to really uncover that market. Uh, and we went from having only like two customers from in the FI world to like more than 25 right now. And I think it's going to grow pretty rapidly in the next 2 years.
Excellent. So, well, with this, you're a service company, obviously, selling audits
Yeah.
and more. Um, let's compare maybe between Zama, which is an provider, product oriented, whereas you are more like a service. How do you approach a prospect, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when you're a service company, especially bootstrapped, meaning you don't have like external funding, you really need to make sure that you're making revenue from day one. And on our side, the way we approach things with services is we really do like what we call consultative selling, which is pretty much really understanding where you are in the development life cycle and see how we could support you. Some institutions are not there yet in terms of building, so it means we're just going to educate them, and we can provide workshops or uh, educational session for devs or also leaders that needs to understand the risk associated uh, to this like adoption of technology. And then you really want to follow their life cycle. So the moment they build a product, you can also help them with design, architecture reviews, and then move to the smart contract audit, which is where people really know us, but it's really late
Yes.
in the life cycle, right? Yeah.
Okay, so really about consultative. I mean, in B2B, obviously, and in B2C too, but to a different extent, you need trust to convert a prospect into a client. And the trust is built, okay, through the reputation. You had your open source libraries, which were the first pass to highlighting the quality of your work. For us, as infra provider, typically we would need companies like you to use and to understand our tech to then push it through other accounts. We talk and we explain our tech, but often what we often see is that we need some consulting firms to be able to understand where we are in the stacks. We only answer part of some issues addressed by institutional players, so which is privacy here. But most of the institutional projects go beyond. It's like I want to tokenize this product, and privacy is only a piece in the layer. So Zama is not enough, I would say, to answer everything. So we have this kind of project architects, consulting firms or internal teams, product teams, who will design the solution, who will understand, okay, you have this solution on the market. So for the privacy layers, this solution for key management, etc., etc. And then they group everything. But for each, they compare the solutions. So the sales process is obviously super long. If you compare to SMEs, where the decision makers are, I mean, you can convert them with 3, 6 months, or even faster in some cases. Here for banks, asset managers, we are talking about years between the first touch point and then, well, the proof of concept, minimum viable product, procurement process, and then finally the deal closed, then the main product to be shipped. It's on average, 2, 3 years in best case.
So yeah, maybe for Zama, it would be like really focusing on like partnership selling, like being sure that you partner with all of the other part of the stack that they would need to make the project happen. I think for a services company, we could be the coordinator, and I think that's the position that we want to have as OpenZeppelin is how do we coordinate that effort from, and we have this competitive advantage with this open source smart contract, which is really where any company would start, right? At different levels, you have different standards, of course, but they would start exploring that from an educational phase or a building phase, and then we could actually take them by the hand and show them, hey, we have these type of partners. Then we could build up like Zama. But I think the idea is that as a service company, you're more coordinator, and you can leverage like the regular enterprise B2B sales motion plus the partnership ecosystem one, and it's a mix of both at OpenZeppelin.
And so if we dig in into what they want, what they are looking for, what they absolutely need to move forward, what's different from, the best product sells themselves. We see again about trust. You will have compliance, quality of the team, quality of the tech, obviously, but is it robust? Is it well funded or profitable? Because imagine the roadmap from a product manager working in a bank. His question is, what do I bring to my client? So he knows as well that his procurement process will be a few years. So he needs to think few years ahead, and then maybe a decade when it comes to technology they onboard. So they need to know and trust their partner at a deeper level than the tech level. They need to know about the funding. They need to know about the guarantees if you are, if your company goes bankrupt. They need to check the compliance as well. How will the regulator look at this new product based on this new technology? That's quite a lot.
Yeah, so the first thing I think that they would check is trust, right? Like you have different ways to build that trust through past references, and I think this is the hard part usually is to get your first wins as a sales team. But the moment you have that, you also have multiple ways to do it. You can work with a partner who already has trust from a specific party and then get introduced by them. It's like just a warm introduction. I think this works very well. Um, OpenZeppelin has this advantage to have the work that we do on the sales side, but also the library. The library helps a lot with the trust, actually, but you have multiple ways actually to
Yes.
build it. And on the compliance side, it's super important that you're selling to organization, as you mentioned, that really need to understand where you're going to be in 10 years, like, because they're not going to adopt a technology that they won't have kind of the way to manage all the issues that could happen along the way. So that's really something that sometimes you think you're going to get a win from an institution. The engineering team is with you, and then you have a 7 month battle with procurement. And literally, sometimes you could just lose the deal because you're not like SOC 2 compliant or you don't have the right certification to pass their test. And I think when you're a salesperson going into this market, you really need to understand from the start, like what are their security posture, what are compliance posture. Maybe they don't want to work with a company that is based in a certain area, so you need to make sure, like for example, multiple times I wanted to work with central banks
Yeah.
that wouldn't accept that working with OpenZeppelin that is not based, let's say, in
Locally.
France. It happened. So this is definitely something that could be a blocker, and you don't want to lose too much time with this type of accounts.
And talking about international markets, have you noticed some differences? Because I know that you just moved to the UAE. Like, how do they do business at institutional level compared to the other markets you've experienced?
I would say that so far the US market was the most like active for us because obviously since January and the, the Trump order, everything got accelerated. And I think all the companies were ready already to ship those products. Usually they've been using their subsidiaries in Asia to test things before it got accepted and legalized like in the US. But in the UAE, I would say that the the main difference is that when they decide to launch a project or they have a vision, they execute extremely fast because there is literally no blockers. And they have a plan for 2030 to be like more AI driven and blockchain based. And I think they're really going to tokenize a lot of their industry actually. And you have some example with the ADI Foundation that is doing a lot of work there on the tokenization side,
They launched
which
a
is government
new,
backed, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. They launched a new stablecoin, I think,
Yeah, which is
Theorem.
the one stamped by the central bank. So everything is government already based, yeah.
But it's interesting because, I mean, in UAE specifically, the institutional market necessarily goes through the government. I mean, you have the government playing a role over there. Whereas, when you talk to institutional players in Europe, obviously the governments are here through the way of the law and regulators, but you don't bring like the French Ministry of Economics into your deal with BNP Paribas or something like this. Yeah.
Would you say that that's the same thing in Switzerland, which is a bit like different, or?
Well, I moved 2 months ago, so I'm not an expert yet. But no, Switzerland. What's interesting is that they are still, I mean, very innovative. They are still more flexible than in European Union because they have less supervision from European Union. You have different layers of regulation to comply with and different battles happening at once. Sometimes you have GDPR messing up with the blockchain activities. I mean, I'm talking specifically about privacy, but the GDPR law contradicts some transparency laws for transactions on chain. So you have this kind of battles, legal battles that happen at a higher level, and it's less accessible. The timelines are longer, so it's very different here.
And I just like maybe have a question for you. I know that you've been doing like B2B regular sales, but are you also now doing something more that is like ecosystem partnership, technology adoption driven? What would be uh, for you like the main challenge compared to classical B2B sales?
So that's interesting. We just hired Irene as well, who will lead this part of ecosystem growth. She comes from Optimism. So the main difference is that, B2B sales, it's kind of a framework which is very well known. You can find a lot of good sales leader, good salespeople from more like software companies, traditional companies, and if they have an interest in crypto, then they can build the same motion. It's, I mean, you don't need to over-engineering things. Whereas ecosystem, it's really something typical from the crypto industry. You have to be compatible with wallets, you have to be compatible with protocols, you have to, you have many partners to take into account to be available on specific dApps, and the end user will expect you to be available. That's the main difference to me. Whereas the sales, B2B sales, you want to sell to one company, and okay, you will plug other services, but they expect you to deliver a product, a technology, and services. Whereas ecosystem, it's more about making your product available on an existing market.
So it's like, yeah, so it's like something more similar to like a partnership role in the classical B2B.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Distribution.
And I know that in the space, like it's a lot of like grant oriented type of sales. Like, what do you think of that? And like, what's your view on the market?
Yeah, so I mean, I will make people angry a bit, but Zama decided to not go through this approach of grants, airdrop, and others, because we've seen in the past few years that it's more like mercenary capital, and that's not really what you want if you are here for the long term. You have some ecosystems, I won't name them, but they were here for just launching a token and, you know, making a few people rich internally and then just disappearing. When you have proper technology, and I'm thinking about a lot of projects, you're here for the long term. And here, if you start, you know, going after vanity metrics in a very short term view with grants, you're actually paying for people to use your stuff. So, okay, in some cases, you can subsidize your go-to-market and make sure that, you know, the first adopters get rewarded, etc. But again, with the history, we've seen that developers shift from one ecosystem to another and get grants after grants after grants. Nothing gets done in the long term, whereas what you expect is if your technology is relevant, you will create a whole new ecosystem of profitable companies based on your technology. I mean, if you look at the impact of Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple, well, you have many more companies built on their technology today. And so you never had Apple granting 200K to a dev company just to do an app, you know. Or maybe they did at the very beginning, but today it's like it's more you to pay to access their network, etc. So yeah, we think that we prefer to meet with developers who have an entrepreneurial spirit and who are ready to create their own companies, and then we will find ways to support them, introducing them to VCs. Some of them we even did a joint venture. We announced with Zypher the other day that we are choosing this path with them. Others prefer to stay in full control of their company, so they just want to pay the license to use Zama. We are open. It's just the grant and airdropping tokens. To me, it's outdated, I think.
And I know like confidentiality and privacy is a topic that now institution and banks are exploring now, and I think adoption would arrive in the like next, let's say, 2-3 years. When do you think you'll, or if at some point you'll have like a proper B2B sales team at some point, at like the classical way at Zama, or
Well, give me at least 12 months or more. Again, to be able to sell to these guys, you need a lot of guarantees. And as we are just getting on mainnet, Ethereum mainnet in 1 month, I guess it will simplify discussion and experimentation, but still, we need to go deeper into what we can deliver.
and what would be, you think, the first proof points you can have to build trust to get the first wins? Because it's always the hardest part, I guess.
Yes. So we hired a solution architect to join the team because I think from the moment you can create with the prospect or the future client and design the architecture of what they want to see at technical level, then you have commitment, you know, because you bring a solution, you have a blueprint that you co-created with them. And so they see an advantage in that because we come back to your approach, which is a bit consultative in this case. but they needed it at a technological level. So that's where,
And to get their commitment, usually, do you think them paying for this type of like proof of value is something you could ask for institutions? Because this is
yes.
definitely something you could do with ecosystems, but with banks, sometimes they're a bit like reluctant to pay. But for me, paying is a
Uh,
way to showcase commitment,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is important for this type of project.
So yeah, I mean, you have all type of clients. You have some very aggressive who just will try to negotiate to zero. Some may be worth it actually, and to work with them and get their logo, and it's a play. Others with LCR relationship, they are happy to pay because they know that the resources they are getting are valuable. So it has a price, you know. And so yeah, you can ask for payments for proof of concept, MVPs. Obviously, I mean, you put your man on the line, you put your technology on the line. It should be if they want to work with you in the long term as well, if they are serious, they need to reward you because yeah.
And does it happen that if they don't pay but still do the project, you still have to do procurement? That's something I've never done, so I'm asking.
Yes. Oh yes. Procurement
The
will
check, like
negotiate.
the
Yeah.
check part of it, yeah.
Yes. And procurement will negotiate the prices in the long term as well. Yeah.
Okay, because you already negotiate the next phase of the project, of course. If
Yeah.
not, yeah, okay. Oh, makes sense.